Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the episode of the DrunkNerds podcast. I'm your host, Tyler. Join me is Colonel Gables. Normally, this would be the part where we get all excited, talk about the things we know and love about video games. But Gables, we are here for another reason.
Yeah?
We are here to remember E3.
Yes.
Gables, I don't know if you can hear the music right now.
Oh, I can hear it.
So good. I'm really happy this is working. Okay. Gables, we are here today to remember our sweet baby boy, E3. Now, if you allow me, I have written a little something here for E3.
Okay.
As E3 walked through the valley of the shadow of death, it took a look at their life and realized there's none left. Because we reacted and laughed so long that even Jeff Keighley thought it was gone. E3 had 21 events, but we asked ourselves, would it have 22? The way things were going, we didn't know. Tell me why were the ESA so blind to see that the ones they hurt were Gables and me. Been spending most of our lives living in an E3 paradise. Been spending most of our lives living in a E3 paradise. E3 had the power and the money and the power. We gave them minute after minute and hour after hour. Everyone was running, but the ESA wasn't looking. It's going on in the Microsoft Theater's kitchen, but ESA didn't know that Jeff Keighley was cooking. Been spending most of our lives living in an E3 paradise. Been spending most of our lives living in an E3 paradise. Rest in peace, E3, 1995 to 2021. Now, if you allow us to have a moment of silence for our sweet, precious boy, E3. Thank you guys so much for that. Anyways, guys, this is the Drunk Dashers podcast. For every week, Gables and I get together and talk about video games. I am Tyler. That is Gables. If you guys like all that, enjoy all this is the stupidest fucking thing we've ever done. This is the Drunk Dashers podcast. This is episode 587. This is the last normal show of the week, or of the year, rather.
Yeah.
Gables and I are going to do 2 shows tonight. This was episode 1. Hope you guys liked that. If you did, I appreciate it. Gables, I was at work the other day, and I was like, man, it'd be really funny if someone did an E3 eulogy, and I don't think anybody has. So, Gables, I figured, why not us, Why not us?
Yeah.
So I hope you guys appreciated that, I was like thinking, what do I say? And then I just started singing the Gangster's Paradise, Coolio's Gangster's Paradise, and I was like, oh, this actually works out. So anyway, that's what we did. If you guys like this show for whatever reason, if you're still here, we appreciate it. Please like, follow, subscribe, check us out wherever you are. If you guys are listening to this as a podcast, please go to our YouTube channel, Drunk-Nerds, and you'll find us and just watch it. I enjoyed that. It's a fun visual gag as well. But anyways, please check us out. We do this every week. We're just 2 guys get together, talk about video games, everything we love about them. So anyways, Gables, I think we can just skip the how you doings. Let's just get into it, Gables.
Might as well.
Fuck it. We're already in it. Gables, E3 is officially dead. Sweet baby Jesus, sweet baby boy, is dead. After more than 2 decades of hosting an event that has served as a central showcase for the U.S. and global video game industry, the Entertainment Software Association has decided to bring E3 to a close. This is from the ESA CEO, Stanley Pierre Louis. I feel like we've talked about this a lot already. I mean, it's been coming up the last 3 or 4 years. We've been hearing it year after year for people that go to the event year after year, and they talk about every year it's becoming less and less. And like a lot of people even said in 2019, at the 2019 event, well before COVID became a thing, that we didn't know if hey, is this coming back next year? Or because they were talking about it's becoming smaller and smaller. Like it used to be completely full, and less and less people are going. Journalists and people that actually work, in the video game industry. We've seen Sony completely pulled out. They announced that in 2018 that they pulled out 2019 and they said they weren't even going to do a 2020 show before COVID. EA and Xbox started putting their events down the street from
Yep.
them at the Microsoft Theater, which is where I got that reference from, by the way. And then like a lot of other third party publishers that maybe like the Take Two or 2K or like Rockstar or even sometimes like some other other smaller publishers, like they realize instead of like going there and like setting up their own booths or like having their own events, like it was just cheaper and easier to just give their game to one of the big three console makers and put it in their show and then have it at their booth. Jeff Keighley announced after 2019 E3 that he was not going back to the next one. Then obviously Summer Game Fest took off from there. In 2017 they started allowing like to really kind of boost profits. They like started to allow like the public in without really working with the people that are working at the show or the people like the publishers and developers that are there to like put on an event for reporters and journalists that are actually there to like do a job. And then that became an entire shit show. So like nobody was happy there. The people that paid to go to the event, the reporters, the journalists, the content creators there to like to do work, the people at the event working there weren't happy. The developers, the publishers, nobody was happy. Everybody was pissed off. And then in 2020 they canceled it because of COVID, but there was a lot of rumors and reports that they might have canceled it anyways. But COVID was just their excuse. And then they brought it back in 2021. Lost nearly $4 million putting the event together. They had all these ideas. They spent like over $1 million building this app that they were going to use to like try to make it so like people could like kind of like you always hear about like the behind the scenes, like they allow like the the reporters and stuff would go into these back rooms and like watch like the long 20-minute gameplay sessions of like
Yes.
stuff that wasn't shown to the public or stuff like that, or they would show it to them for we got to see it so they can like write about it and have it ready to go when it goes. Like they were going to do this app where basically we can do the same thing virtually. That actually just completely fell apart, didn't happen. And then we heard Repop was going to bring it back earlier this year. Obviously that didn't happen. Nintendo, Square Enix, Ubisoft all like said they weren't going to be at E3 because of it. And then they eventually canceled it. Then the ESA finally came out and announced that they're officially canceling themselves. Gables, how? Now it's officially official. How we feeling?
Honestly, I'm feeling kind of sad that yeah, it is over, but at the same time, there have been a lot of highs, definitely a lot of lows, a lot of funny shit, but also it was about time for it to be put out of its misery.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it sucks too because like I feel like the event itself, um, like it definitely needed to change. We talked about this. Like definitely, the, the complaint a lot of people were saying this is before all this stuff started happening. This is a lot like 4 or 5 years ago. People were saying this is like they didn't really want to change because it was like this was a cash cow for them. Like ESA is a lobbyist group; they're a nonprofit, and over half of their income came from E3. So like this is a
Mm,
huge money maker for them, and like yeah, they didn't want this to go away because and they didn't want to change anything. But charging developers and publishers millions of dollars to just be a part of the event, charging ridiculous sum of money to like put in a booth in this event center that all they're doing is renting out an event center. And then
yeah.
like they own the name of E3 and then they own the time for the like the event center. And then they're charging a ridiculous sum of money to do all this. And then on top of that you hear about like they charge like the nickel and dime you on like you have to pay extra. You have to pay for like the internet. You have to pay for like per outlet. You have to um, ESA hires the people that companies can't like Nintendo's there. They can't like go to Subway and bring Subway back to their employees working. Like they have to pay um, whoever the ESA hired to like feed the people there. Like they have to pay the ESA for those people to bring them food, and they charge them a
Huh.
ridiculous amount of money. So it's like yeah, it's like you see like yeah, that's what we hear about like PlayStation. It's like or like Microsoft. It's like EA. It's like they're spending like they were spending 10 some of these cases over $10 million to put on these shows there, and a lot of that was them like, renting out the booth space and all that shit. It's like then you hear like EA and Microsoft like we can just do it down the street or across the street and control it and have our own shit and be a frat. It's like we can just rent out a theater ourselves and just do the shit there, and it's a lot cheaper. And then obviously as we've seen like Nintendo, like they still had the booth, but then they just started doing the direct. So it's like instead of renting out
Yep.
a theater to do the press conference, we can just control the messaging ourselves. We don't have to have the weird, all the shit going wrong during the Wii days because like everybody's like the Wiimotes getting fucked up by the cell phones, and stuff like that. Obviously,
Oh yeah.
it's a case of them. They didn't want to change, and when they finally started to change, or like try to make some changes, uh, COVID hit, and basically it's one of those cases where, in a lot of cases, I feel like you look at things in the world where like things were dying, and COVID just kind of sped up the process on a lot of things. Like a lot of like there's like a few places actually around here where you can like go and like rent movies and shit, and like rent video games, and like then they were obviously dying, but like they were still there, and they like still go there, but like they didn't survive COVID, shit like that. Like you hear, like you see like movie theaters, stuff like that. Like AMC is in a lot of trouble financially, and they could potentially go bankrupt this year and shit like that. So it's definitely one of those cases where like a lot of things that were like slowly going down, just like it just really just sped up the process on that. I feel like the ESA was their own worst enemy, and it's just sad. It's just really sad. And it's like like the E3 thing was like, I remember like Justin and I being my best friend Justin used to do the podcast with us years ago. And we always talk about as kids, like, like 2000s and shit when we were teenagers and stuff, like reading, video game magazines or just watching like videos in the early days of the internet and like of E3 and stuff. And like hearing stories of people like, like Jeff Gertzmans and of the world, stuff like that have been going for, over 2 decades now. And it's like, man, it's like you always hear people's like, this is like going to E3 was like you made it moment. And it's like, man,
Yes.
going to E3 was like always on my bucket list. And I think that was every kid growing up like a video game player. That was always like a bucket list thing. And it's like, it's just kind of sad that like, I don't know, it's never going to not be on my bucket list of going to E3. And like that was like always a like, yeah, you made it moment. And like now there's they don't have, there's not that moment. There's not that event. There's not that thing anymore for like content creators in the video game world, or if you're like you're working at a media at a you're working at an IGN or a GameSpot, or you work for an independent media company like that covers video games. It's like you don't have you'll never have that moment, like, so
No.
it just sucks. It sucks for like a lot of people in our generation and people maybe the generation below us, like that, I don't know what they call them, that Gen Z, I don't really know anymore.
Gen Z, I think.
Okay, I don't know. I don't. Yeah. Anyways, oh, just really sad. But I guess Gables. I wouldn't be shocked in 3 years from now they try to bring it back, or um, maybe ESA tries to sell the name off for a bunch of money, and someone buys the name up and tries to do something with it. But I don't know. With Summer Game Fest and Jeff Keighley and all that, I wonder if like this just now like there's probably, I wonder if like Nintendo and stuff that like companies that like that were kind of like that haven't really done anything with Jeff Keighley, or maybe now, with Summer Game Fest, maybe like they're holding out for E3 to come back. Maybe this was like the thing that like, all right, cool, we'll be a part of it, or maybe we'll just never have that moment again. It's gonna be how it's been the last couple of years, where Nintendo does their direct like the end of June, PlayStation does theirs in like 2-3 weeks before Summer Game Fest. So I don't know, but anyways, Gables, let's move on here to some other news. Gables, we had Sony was hacked again.
Yeah.
This time, it's been the second time it's been hacked this year, but it wasn't. Luckily for our sake, I guess it hasn't been customers. It's been like, unfortunately, it's been employees that have been getting hacked. But this
Yeah.
time, Insomniac was hacked. Sony and PlayStation have confirmed the fact that they were hacked. Part of it that what's interesting here is, so there's some Wolverine screenshots that are out there apparently.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked at them. I just don't want to know. But 3 unannounced projects were kind of revealed in here. Not revealed, but there's some code names here. So a couple of these you can kind of figure out on your own. RCE is one of them. Spider-Man 3, which is no shit. If you beat Spider-Man 2, that's obviously setting up for a sequel. And Spider-Verse. So I guess I don't know if I heard this and forgot about it, or I just didn't know. But apparently there's like Insomniac has been working on a multiplayer Spider-Man game. So some believe that the Spider-Verse game is that, which can make sense because Spider-Verse, you can probably just create your own Spider-Man and go from there. Look at like Spider-Verse is a very popular thing nowadays, especially with like the animated movies we've had recently. And some are believing, so RCE, we don't know for sure what that is, but some believe it could mean another Ratchet and Clank game. So, Gables, how you feeling about some of the stuff that we're seeing here?
On well, let's see. From what we are initially could be seeing down the line, Spider-Man 3, no brainer. I mean, as popular as the Spider-Man games have been when they've
Yeah,
released them out right there, I mean, there's definitely a lot of story left to be told for the third game, the third entry into that inside of Insomniac Spider-Man series. For a Spider-Verse, an MMO, or like a live service sort of thing with Spider-Man, I mean, that has some possibilities,
yeah,
but
like a live action game or live service game,
possibly.
not live
Yeah,
action,
yeah,
live service.
possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole live service sort of stuff. All depends upon what Sony's going to initially go for, allow them to do. I mean, it could be some where they could not be like fully extendable. Maybe they'll pull back a little bit on that sort of thing and to try to delve into something else. And quite honestly, RC3
RCE.
kind of RCE,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
RCE. Okay, I don't know why the fuck I was thinking EC3 for God's sake.
yeah.
Um,
The Ethan Carter the third.
I don't know why the acronym and stuff like that just
Yeah,
sort of do that stuff. But RCE, it could be that, it could be Ratchet and Clank. It could be possibly something like a Resistance collection or something like
okay.
that.
I
But
was gonna ask you. I can never remember because there's Killzone, there's Resistance. Killzone is the
yeah,
gorilla, isn't that? Is
it's
Killzone
yeah, it's
gorilla?
Gorilla.
Okay,
Killzone's
I can
Gorilla.
never remember who does what. And Insomniac
Insomniac is
was
Resistance.
Resistance. Okay, all right. Always forget. Always I don't know why I cannot remember, but
Yeah, the Resistance trilogy, was met like with it was fine. It wasn't gonna be like, say, the Halo Killer or something from like the 360 era type of stuff. I mean,
Hayes did
no,
that.
it
Yeah,
Hayes was an attempt to try to do that, and it failed miserably. But as far as the quality goes, I mean, I only played the original Resistance, Fall of Man and stuff. It was fine, but I did have plenty of like little glitches and stuff like that inside of it. The second and the third were better, from what I understood, but never got around to playing those ones. But have a re if we did have like a remastered or something like that of like the entirety of Resistance,
yeah.
that'd be cool.
I just thought of something funny. What if RCE means Resistance Collector Edition? That'd be fucking funny. I don't know. Like I
uh,
remember I tried playing. I bought the Resistance. Like they did the PS3 collection
yeah.
some years. Like obviously several years back. And I remember buying because I never played them. Or no, was that Killzone? It might have been Killzone actually. Yeah, because Killzone One was on PS2, wasn't it?
Yep.
Okay, I remember it was Killzone One because I remember like trying to play that because Resistance were all on PS3, weren't they?
Let's see. Resistance was on PS3. All three of them were
Okay,
on
all right.
PS3. Then you
All
had a PSP side game.
right. Well, that'd be. I mean, I guess they can. That's something you could do a live service game with, but I feel like that IP is just not popular enough. Like at this point, like they're doing like the Twisted Metal one. Like that has a lot more reverence in the video game world. Obviously, even before the TV show, now than I think Resistance does now. So
Dude, I think that if Sony were to back to the well in terms of Resistance, doing a remastered thing of the original, or like even a collector's thing, like with all three, remastering those three games
like a full
to
blown
spark
remake.
maybe interest instead of
Yeah.
like a full blown, yeah, like a full blown like remake or something to try to gauge interest into trying to do something more with the trilogy, or no, just to do something more with that franchise in general. I mean,
Yeah.
they could do that because Insomniac is a lot different now than it was like back then, and the quality of Resistance could even be better
Yeah.
if it's presented instead of a modern setting.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd much rather have that from like a lot of the like these like PlayStation studios where it's like yeah like I said like they have like they're working on the main game but they're also working on the live service game. Like I almost
Yeah.
rather than like I don't know almost like the Naughty Dog way is like I'd rather have just obviously you can argue like Naughty Dog is like remastering and doing remakes of games that like of like Last of Us Part One remake and then Last of Us Part Two remaster. But like I'd almost rather them like these studios go back into like some of these like yeah they like do a Killzone remake or Resistance remake like or Infamous remakes. It's like bring those back to like modern day. Almost I think that almost be better than just doing like I think it might be more sustainable than fucking doing. You could probably pump. You can make them a little bit faster. Obviously, if you're doing a full, you gotta like make them from the ground up again. But you already have a story and everything in place that you
Yes.
cut a lot of time out that way. Um, so yeah,
You
I don't,
know,
go ahead.
how many times Sony has like borrowed a couple of things from Nintendo. One thing I wish they could borrow is the aspect of reviving some of these classic IPs that they do have and just remake them and bring them back to the modern era to try to gauge not just interest, but also to gauge what they could potentially do with that series going
Yeah.
forward. I mean, the games you mentioned and stuff, those are excellent examples. The original Infamous, Resistance. I mean, you could even like throw in some like oddball ones like here and there,
Yeah.
but still, it'd be a lot better than what they're doing at this point in time, which they presented strong first party games, but they are just playing too safe. They are playing too safe, my honest
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you can almost not too safe, but like, I mean, now you look at like, talking about a dozen licensed games and shit, and um, it sounded safe, but 5 years ago, but nowadays not. So
Now they're a
yeah, now
complete
it's a giant
risk.
risk. Like you're better, yeah. So and like those games would be like, those games for like the PS3, like they're stuck on PS3s, and if you like just ported them to like modern day, like those games would just not be good now. Um, so yeah, like just
No.
doing a full blown remake, honestly, but like, and if the first one sells, then go to the next one. I don't know. If it doesn't, I don't know, move on. But uh, yeah, I don't know. I'd much rather have that. But we should see. I don't know. But I mean, Insomniac's been doing a fantastic job, like Ratchet and Clank. I didn't. I came away liking the last the what was that, Rift Apart. I came away liking it, but I didn't love
Yes.
it. I know a lot of people like that's like one of their favorite PS5 games still. So, but for me, it was just like I thought it was. But I'm not a huge like platformer guy either. But
But then again, it definitely was a hard type of follow up and stuff from the solid entry they put out for the
yeah,
PS4 back in what
that was a
2016,
remake
I
of
think it was.
fucking the original Ratchet and Clank. We just keep making good points
Exactly.
here, Gables, and like finding evidence of them doing it and doing it well. It's weird.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to wait and see. But it's just I feel like I mean I said the last 2 years I feel like we're in a weird spot with PlayStation, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of concerned over like what's gonna happen because it's about ESA moving like a boat. Like the problem now with video games now is it takes so long to make them that, like we said, like it's the thing we've been talking about forever now. Like we see all these live service games getting in, like all these live service games this year that have been out now getting closed, and then we see all these live service games getting announced the last year and a half, and it's like, ugh, like nobody wants that, and
Dude,
it takes 4 or 5 years to make a game. By the time these games come out, no one wants to play these games anymore, and it can take
that's the
5 years to
thing
get
though.
back on track.
I That's one of the biggest worries I have, like personally, because of how long these games are taking and how much money's being
Mm-hmm.
put into them. My biggest worry is like this bubble for the AAA gaming space that's becoming too incredibly big. I'm not saying it's gonna
No,
pop or
yeah,
anything else like that, but I'm saying it's like it's getting too ambitious in terms of the whole aspect of how much cost is going and how much time is being spent and stuff. I mean, we want
mm-hmm.
quality games, but at the same time, we don't want it to be oversaturated to the extent to where we're not going to be focusing upon the ones that need to be focused on in order to try to help proceed like the gaming industry forward.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about that a lot, this week too, where like, um, I mean, we're just, I keep saying this over and over again about like just entertainment in general. We're in this really weird spot with where, um, now like things are costing so much money to make now, uh, but we're spread. There's so much more content out there nowadays. It's everything's spread to like we're talking about movie theaters are struggling because like now people go to the theaters for like the big stuff, but like
Yes.
it's like horror movies do well because they're so cheap to make that you can put them out. People will go to see horror movies, but like you look at even some of the biggest movies come out this year. So like the new Mission Impossible was um, considered. I mean, it made its money back, but it did not as big a success as they thought. MCU
Right.
has been struggling. We look at like they've been making a profit, but they're not like these $1 billion guaranteed hits like they used to be. Indiana
No.
Jones was a flop. Even though it made like
Yes.
400, I think it made like $400 or $500 million. It didn't make its money back. Like
They
we
put in a lot of money inside of that
yeah, they
movie
spent
and
like
it did
$100
not
million
make.
de-aging Harrison Ford. Um,
Yes.
like we look at streamers, like where it used to be like just spend money just to get people to subscribe. We just care about getting people on these platforms. You don't care about making money. And then last year that like turned on its head. It's like now we got to make money. And you see like them jacking prices have been going up incredibly quickly on those the last year and a half. Like Netflix has done multiple pay increases. I think Disney Plus has nearly doubled the price, um, year over year. Same like Max has gone up like $2. Like Paramount's gone up money. Apple TV has gone up money, and they're all trying to like make more money, but like and they cut back on putting out product. And some of those I could argue that's good because like that was an issue a lot of people were talking about with Netflix for a long time. There was like they're just like throwing like 15, 20 new things out there every week that like shit gets buried. It's kind of like the thing we always talk about with Steam, like for years, whereas like there'd be like 100 new games on the thing every week, and it's like no one can keep track of it, so it's like shit's just getting lost in the shuffle.
Yep.
And it's kind of almost like the same thing is happening in the entertainment world, where where it's like there's so much shit out there nowadays. Like used to be like on TV on television, you were just competing with the other channels, and now it's like everything's fighting with everybody. Now it's like you look at the cable networks where like people are dropping cable like crazy. So these networks are making less money than ever, but sports is cost like the sports fees, the sports rights for like NFL, NASCAR. NASCAR just got a gigantic increase.
Yep.
F1 just got like the ratings are not going up for a lot of these. Like NBA and NFL are up, but everything else is like steady or down. But they're still getting gigantic increases because these networks, these sports stations or these sports properties know that this is like the live sports is the one thing that guarantees ratings, and they're more valuable than ever, even though there's less money, and they're getting gigantic rights increases to be on television, even though there's less money. So, I mean, and you look at video games, like you were saying, Gables, like Callisto Protocol sold 2 million copies, and it was a flop. It lost money.
Yes, it did.
They needed to sell 5 million copies, like I think in the first like 3 months, and it sold two in like the first like 6 weeks, and it was considered a disappointment. And then they laid off over half their staff. The CEO and the vice president of the company of Callisto Protocol stepped down. Immortals of Avium came out, sold horribly. Like the numbers aren't out there, but it's way worse than what they thought the lowest expectations were going to be. And they immediately laid off over half their staff. You look at the gaming industry in general, like over 10,000 people have been laid off in the year of 2023. Supposed to be the best year ever in gaming. Over 10, like it's one of the worst years for people that work in the industry.
And what is it like? I'm not too sure about the exact number. What was it? 5,600 people in the gaming space lost their jobs?
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
grossly
that's just people that we know about. That doesn't include like smaller companies, that like smaller indie companies, shit like that. That's like just companies that we, bigger ones out there. Embracer is responsible for I think like 1,500 of those. They just laid off. They closed they closed the studio this week and then had mass layoffs in 2 other studios this week.
Ultimately, what it sounds like to me, though, in general, just to kind of sum up everything that you've said, though, it's like things are starting to become so expensive to the point and stuff with all this saturation and all this different type of variety of stuff to where now it feels like because it's gotten so big, a lot of the entertainment industry in general is starting to shrink back down gradually and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we're a place right now where like nobody knows where we're going.
No.
Right now, like no one's figured. Like sometimes you can like usually like okay this like you have a couple ideas and like obviously like there's a lot of people out there a lot smarter than me that work in the industry that make these big decisions. But it's like I don't know. Yeah, like you talk about Gables, like taking 6-7 years and spending $200 million on a project isn't sustainable unless unless you're like Santa Monica Studios or Naughty Dog or
Rockstar Games.
Rockstar, yeah, like Rockstar can spend a decade. Like
they have the money and can afford to do that.
Yeah, Take-Two like lost money this past year, but it's like that's because like we're spending a fuck ton of money on GTA 6, and we're gonna make that money back. Like as soon as that game goes up for pre-order, they've already made they've already made a profit.
No shit.
So, but it's it's like we like the problem, but we see these studios out there like they have to like take these big like you can't. I don't know. It's like it's so hard to like get noticed nowadays that like you have to like take these big risks and spend $100+ million on these projects, and if it like you can't afford back then you had a couple stinkers out there you can the PS2 and earlier you can have a few stinkers out there, but you can pump out a game in a year and like you can just put it on a couple bad stinkers and you're out. But like nowadays you have one that's even like I said, Close Protocols, like it was a disappointing game, but like it still sold $2 million. $2 million sold should be a success. but it wasn't
Absolutely.
because they spent so much money. It's just like I don't know. I'm rambling here, but it's just like I don't I just it's just been the discussion of the year, like layoffs and everything in gaming. But like, man, it's like I don't know, in entertainment in general, like where the fuck are we going? Because I don't know what the answer is. Like, is streaming the answer? Doesn't really seem like it. Is movie theaters the answer? Doesn't really seem like it. Spending $200 million on a next big budget game, is that the answer? For the most part, doesn't seem like it. Being a small indie game doesn't really seem like it either. Because like how many of like for every 10 that come out and like gain an audience, there's 1,000 that just come out and no one ever sees. So
True.
um, kind of continue on that conversation. We kind of already had the discussion here, but another thing, just like E3 being canceled officially, like Last of Us Online has been canceled.
Yep.
So Naughty Dog came out with a statement, said there's no easy way to say this. We've made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on the game. The vision of the game became more refined and satisfying with the studio being enthusiastic about the direction in which we were headed. And ramping up to full production, the scope of our ambition became clear. We had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. So, um, we've heard about the struggles, we've heard everything going on the last year or so through like Jeff Grubb and Jason Schreier, and then we've heard about them. They've laid off people. They like cut it down, and they laid off people that are working on the project just a couple months ago, and now this. So I don't know, Gables. Where are you at with this one?
Honestly, not surprised. We didn't really hear too much updates since like the last time that Neil Druckmann was on stage talking about it, and only showing like bits of screenshots, not
Yeah, like
actual
a year and a half ago.
gameplay. Yeah, like a
Yeah.
year and a half ago. And quite honestly, in terms of the shifting of like what Sony is viewing like live service games in general, I mean, I kind of feel like they had to go forth and reshuffle some bits of stuff, and unfortunately, that Naughty Dog developed Last of Us Online game was the probably the victim of one of those type of little cost cuts and stuff. Because the thing about it though is like Naughty Dog is known for the great first like their first like great like single player games over the
Mm-hmm.
years. But in terms of like an MMO style of game, I mean, yeah, that was a risk to begin with. I mean, taking what they have done before, like say the multiplayer stuff for The Last of Us, like remake and stuff, and then like try to get everything else all inside of that to try to make it like a cohesive world.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, it could still potentially work in certain aspects if you're able to do it right and with enough like money and enough interest, though. But it just felt like that this thing was not going to be panning out into something that was going to be worthwhile in order to sustain players to the extent of what they wanted to try to go forth and do. Because when you think of Naughty Dog, you think of them trying to put the best quality forward in terms of their visual designs, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like their accessibility stuff, in terms of like what they're trying to do, the core of like their gameplay stuff. And what it sounds like to me is that type of quality was taking a hell of a lot longer than what it generally would be for like one of their single player games. And yeah, the time probably would have, they probably decided the time was better like suited into actually going to like another Naughty Dog developed single player games entirely different, or wherever type of path they wanted to go other than say like just an online centric game.
Yeah. Um, and the reports out there was like Bungie went and saw the game a few months back,
Mm-hmm.
and from everything that was out there, is that the game was like good. They made like a Naughty Dog game, but they were trying to make it like a Naughty Dog game but live service, and like those two things just weren't connecting. And like
Right.
Bungie went to them, it's like the game is good here, but like it doesn't make sense as a live service game. And yeah, and that sucks because like what bums me out is I'm a huge Naughty Dog is my favorite studio out there because like Uncharted games and Last of Us obviously like two of my favorite franchises, and it just sucks like to me like there's story content out there that we may just never know like that's
Yeah.
not outside of like the Joel and Ellie world. Like there's a whole other like section of content and lore that we'll just we may never know. Maybe they'll use some of it into like the next and Last was Part 3, and stuff like that. But yeah, it just sucks. And it sucks when it's just like they like this thing has been in like it was in some sort of production since like 2018 because they were supposed to come out.
Yes.
Factions was supposed to come out with The Last of Us Part 2, and then it kind of became bigger, and they started making its own thing. It's supposed to come later, and then it blew up again into a live service game, and obviously this happened. So, um, I don't know, and like I've seen a lot of people out there, like multiple people out there, is like, why couldn't this just been like a thing you put out, like kind of like Ghost of Tsushima Legends was, where like it just was like this multiplayer thing with a raid mode and had like this whole like online mode that like this it was smaller in scope, but like why couldn't they just have that? But it's like I don't know, like you look at like people love like factions and love like the Uncharted multiplayer and stuff, um, but it's just like but you look back at like that early PS4 Xbox One era and like that second half of like the Xbox 360 PS3 era where like every game had just a online mode package
Mm-hmm.
into it, like BioShock 2, Dead
Yep.
Space 2, fucking like everything, or like Dead Space 3 turned to a co-op game, but like everything just had this something tied into it as like because multiplayer was the big thing, and then also they wanted you to not sell your game to GameStop. And like they remember they did like the online pass thing. You had to like redeem the code to play online, or
Yep.
pay $10. And it's just a different world nowadays, and it sucks that like like this thing can't come out and just be like something cool that we play for like 6 months and move on. Like that's just not something that's a thing in video games nowadays. When we talk about games being more expensive and take so long, anyways, like why invest in something that might not be a thing at all, or at best is something people might play for 6 months, but there's no real way to like actually make money off of this, or like
True.
you could put microtransactions into it, but I mean, I don't know, like how sustainable is it? And somebody actually, I saw a thing on Twitter today. Somebody went back and looked at the trophies for Last of Us Factions on PS3,
Mm-hmm.
and less than 2% of people actually like. There's a trophy in the game for like playing an online match. Less than 2% of the people actually got that trophy that played Last of Us.
Oh
So it's
wow.
like we talk about people like love factions, but out of all those people that bought it, 1 out of 50 actually play the game online. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, how worth it is it to actually just do shit like that? Like I'm curious how many people actually went back and played Ghost of Tsushima Legends, even though I heard
Yeah.
it's
I'm kind of
phenomenal.
curious.
But I don't know, it's funny, like like stuff like those online things being shoot ins. Like it's so funny they put so much effort in during that era, the early 2010s and stuff, like to like kill GameStop. And it's so funny that like honestly, what killed GameStop was just going digital, like just
Yep.
having digital sales, and it's like or is killing GameStop, and of all things. So I don't know. It's a bummer, but I don't know. I was talking to somebody in a Discord, one of our Discord channels about it. A buddy of
Yeah.
ours, Cam, and I was like, man, like if there's ever a live service game that like would get me into live service, like a Naughty Dog Last of Us live service game would probably be the thing. And he's like, and Cam was like, as a Destiny 2 addict, this is honestly the best thing that ever happened to you. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that's a good point. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm bummed, but probably in the long run, it just sucks. I feel like Gables, when we look, like, I feel like this has been a really great generation of gaming, like the
Yes.
PS5, Xbox Series console era. Switch obviously, but I put that in its own category because it's in that weird in between stage of generations. But it's been a really great generation. I feel like, but I feel like when we look back in like 3 or 4 years. When we get to the PS6 and whatever the next Xbox is, we're gonna look back and there's gonna be so many. There's just gonna be a wasteland of live service games, and you can argue there already is one, but it's going to get bigger as like the ones from that were put in development in 2018,
Oh no
2019 are coming
shit.
out in the next year or two. But on top of that, all the years wasted by these development studios, these big, huge development studios, making live service games that may or may not have ever came out. And it's like we talk about like,
Yeah.
games taking, instead of like you look at like we talk about not talking about Naughty Dog here. And during that PS3 era, they put out 4 games in a in one generation.
Yep.
They had 3 last generation, and it's like we might get one this generation. It's like you got
Exactly.
one, maybe 2 shots per generation from these studios, and it's like, man, if you wasted 2, 3 plus years on a live service game, just making one, and maybe if it actually went out and you spent another year wasted on it on top of that, it's like, I mean, look at fucking BioWare, like that we've like
That's a good example.
since they put out, I mean, since Dragon Age, they put out fucking Mass Effect Andromeda. We had Anthem, and we've had nothing from them since.
Yes.
It's
They've been
been a decade.
stagnant.
Yeah, we've had. I mean, they wasted so much time on Anthem. So I don't know. Moving on here, Gables though. Let's get some fun news here. What kind of fun news? There's some sad stuff with it, but we got the November Circana reports here. It used to be called the MPDs. This is the top 20 games sold for November. Um, some interesting stuff out of this though, Gables, is that overall hardware sales were down 24% this time last year. If you comparing it to November of last year, a big reason though is because in 2022 that was the first holiday where consoles were actually like the PS5 and Xbox consoles were actually readily available to people.
Jeez, that's right.
And this is all based off of like dollar sales, not unit sales. You gotta remember that. And this year we're seeing like I think we're seeing like you can get it basically you get the PS5 with like Spider-Man 2 packed in for free at this like you can kind of find that for $500 instead of paying the extra like $60 for it or whatever it costs. You've been the Xbox Series S has been like on sale between 150 and $230 I've been seeing. And then on top of that, like the Xbox Series X is $400 everywhere, and some places for $350. So
Yep,
that's a big part of it is
$350.
yeah. So that's a big part of it too is it's a lot cheaper this year. It's actually on sale for the first time, and also we don't have numbers, but the Switch unit sales have fallen drastically year over
Yes.
year. So um, you know, but some interesting news, Gables, though, is that in the U.S., this is just U.S. sales. The Switch is officially the third best-selling console of all time in the U.S. behind the
Wow.
DS and the PS2. So
That's insane.
yeah, so I don't know. I couldn't find actual like numbers for like what that means in the U.S. Oh no, yeah, it passed the 360. So it passed. So it's 360 is now fourth. So
Wow.
but we don't have numbers for. I couldn't find numbers for like what those numbers are for the U.S. I'd love to see those, but we don't have them. And Matt Piscatella that puts all this together. He had a primary driver of the year-on-year decline in console and portable content was a comparable strength of the new release slate. So you look at last year, we had God of War Ragnarok and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. You look at this November, it's Call of Duty, and that's it.
Yep.
Really, like we had some like Super Mario RPG stuff like that, but like nothing on the scale of like God of War and Pokemon, other than Call of Duty. Um, and then also Alan Wake 2 is not on last month's or this month's because Epic doesn't give out digital sales, and it's a digital only game. But it's been estimated it sold by 850,000 copies, which kind of disappointing to hear that. I hope that hopefully it gets a Game Award bump. But let's get into the top 20 list here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 brand new games for the month of November that came out.
Okay.
I want you to try to guess what those 4 are.
For the month of November.
Yes.
Well, I could probably think Super Mario RPG, maybe one of those.
Yep. Number 7.
Okay.
Another one I already said.
Oh yeah, the Modern Warfare.
Yep. That's number 1, obviously.
Let me see.
Another
And
one is a Switch exclusive that is not made by Nintendo.
a Switch exclusive that's not made by Nintendo. Oh
It's a game. It's a
shit.
JRPG.
Oh, that's right. Well, it's not Star Ocean,
It is Star
obviously.
Ocean. The
It's
second.
Star Ocean, huh?
Yep. At number 17. And another one is a brand new game based off an anime.
Brand new game based upon an anime.
And
Is it a Naruto game?
it's a Naruto Boruto. Yes.
Okay.
God.
This is one of the first times I think we've ever, in some of the show's history, where I'm able to actually guess
Yeah.
all
Good
of the
job.
fucking
Yeah.
games.
So that was number 12 here. So kind of an interesting month here though, because like I always kind of find the holidays fascinating because we usually get a lot newer games, but also like it's kind of fun to see what jumps back into this. So remember,
Yeah.
this is not unit sales, this is dollar amount. So
Yes.
I'm gonna go through this, jumping from number 73 to number 20 this month. Just Dance 2024. Number 19, holding strong, Minecraft. Oh,
Yep.
Gables, do you want to remind everybody Mario Kart 8 fell out of the top 20 for the first time ever
Wow.
last month. So this
Yeah.
is 2 months in a row. Mario Kart 8 not on the list.
That's insane.
Yeah. Number 18 here, Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales. So probably had a boost because of Spider-Man 2 coming out.
Yes.
Number 17, like I said, Star Ocean. Number 16, NHL 24. Another game jumping back up in here. I guess had a pretty big sale from number 36 to number 15. God of War Ragnarok. Number 14, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Number 13, Sonic Superstars. Number 12, Naruto Cross Boruto, The Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections. Number 11, dropping down from number 3, Assassin's Creed Mirage. Number 10, UFC 5. Number 9, NBA 2K24. Number 8, Mortal Kombat 1. Number 7, Super Mario RPG. Number 6, EA Sports FC 24. Number 5, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. And that does not include digital sales, by the way. Number 4, Madden NFL 24. Number 3, Hogwarts Legacy. And I was kind of surprised by that. I'm like, why did it get a bump? Like, must have had a sale. The Switch copy came out last month. So,
Yes.
and I heard apparently it's not great, but it's not bad either. So, it runs okay. So, it's good based off of some of those Switch ports we've had the last year or so. That's a good sign. Number 2, dropping down from number 1, Marvel Spider-Man 2. Number 1, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. So,
Yep.
Call of Duty already the number 2 best-selling game of the year. No surprise there.
Yep.
So, but yeah, Gibbs, what's your overall kind of looking at this list here? What you thinking?
I'm actually surprised there's actually a couple of JRPGs that are on the list, especially this time of the year. That's not like a major like major like say Final Fantasy or like whatever and stuff. But yeah, I'm fairly surprised that Star Ocean, the second story, that initial remaster and stuff like that is inside of the top 20.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it's not like saying exclusive here for Switch. It's actually on
Oh,
PS4
is
and
it?
PS5
I
as
didn't see
well.
that. Okay, my bad. All
Yes.
right.
Yes, there's actually I've played the demo, I think, for the PS5 version
All right. I'm
from
sorely
like a little
mistaken.
bit
Okay.
ago. But other than that, though, it's surprising not even seeing Mario Kart 8 anywhere up on this list as well. But I'll tell you what's not surprising is seeing like influx of like the bumps and say like the sales of say Assassin's Creed Mirage or for the NHL game or for Sonic Superstars. For the month of November, these games have been heavily like discounted in terms of Black Friday
Hmm.
sales, especially leading up to Black Friday and also the weeks corresponding leading up until the Christmas holidays because some of those games are still on sales at some retailers. I
Yeah.
mean, for those listening in or watching in, I mean, you have to check your local retailer to see if there's any sales of that sort. I know, for instance, for where my neck of the woods is, you'll still find Assassin's Creed Mirage for like $40,
Yeah.
$50 for like Mortal Kombat 1 and stuff. Sonic Superstars is like the anomaly where it just increased right back up to
Yeah.
$60. So I'm
It'll be
like, well,
$5 in a week
no.
when people realize it's bad. So
Well, either that or like probably in a discount bin or something where it's like, oh hey, pennies on the
yeah,
dollar.
like we'll give you $5. Please take it. Uh, yeah. No, I mean, I always enjoy these. Like, I always find some enjoyment out of these lists, even the months where like there's just like nothing happening. Just kind of see like what sells, anyways. But yeah, like I mean, it's like this is like maybe like the lightest November we've had. Um,
Yes.
as long as like I mean, I'd like to go back and like look at some of these reports from the last decade, like to see like
Maybe lighter than 2013? I'm not sure.
I'm trying to think what like I don't know. I mean I don't know. I can't remember what came out in the fall of 2013. Well, that was new consoles though.
Or maybe 2014,
2014
though,
was
maybe.
2014. We had Far Cry and Dragon Age. Because I remember those came out like within like I think like the same week. There was like Far Cry 4 and Dragon Age Inquisition. Um,
Yeah, we would definitely need to do a check
yeah,
upon that, though, because this past November, I cannot remember a time to where we only had maybe one or two games, and there really wasn't
yeah,
anything like too big other than like say just Call of Duty.
yeah,
Even though you still had like say some like the lower echelon games of like these two remasters that came out at the same time for the Nintendo systems, the Super Mario RPG and like Star Ocean and stuff. I mean, it really wasn't like a lot of big major releases in November other than Call of Duty and also with Spider-Man.
yeah. Yeah, it's so weird because like October became very crunch because everybody was trying to get out of Call of Duty's way. Um, it's always
Yep.
funny when you see that happen. It's like I mean, like, are you almost like better off just like coming out like if you're like an Alan Wake 2 or something like, are you just better off like coming out like mid-November maybe because like you're so different
Hmm.
than like Call of Duty. It's like it's not like this is like you're an FPS military shooter coming out at the same time. This is not, I don't know. I always find that weird. Like, I get like because you're like, we're not the average gamer. We're gonna buy a lot of the games, instead of like,
Yeah.
maybe like some people are like they only have, they're only gonna buy one, or they just are like the holidays. Maybe they're only gonna buy one or two, and they see Call of Duty there. So I don't know. They want to be out for Call of Duty when maybe like, mom and dad or average gamer Joe goes to the store to buy Call of Duty if they actually go to the store, and then they see fucking, oh, I guess Alan Wake wouldn't work in this case because it's digital only, but like they see the other game that came out a couple weeks ago there too, and they pick it up with it. I guess maybe that's the argument. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just find that interesting, but oh yeah, man, I might do that here. I'm gonna go back and look at previous Novembers because uh, I don't know. It's a pretty light one, but yeah, I think that's gonna actually do it for news this week, guys. Let's get into what we've been playing. Gables, you want to go first? Do you want me to go first, buddy?
You go first,
Okay.
Tyler.
So I've been playing a few games, uh, two of which are DLC. The other one being Fortnite. I've been going through Fortnite. I'm really having a blast with the. I've dabbled a little bit in the Fortnite festival, which is like the harmonics, like their like Guitar Hero thing. It's fine. It sucks. Like
Hmm.
every day they have different free songs you can play, or you can just buy the songs so you can play them whenever you want. I don't know. It's like it kind of just feels um, like almost like early access Guitar Hero game. Like it works fine. It's perfectly fine. Just not a lot of song choices, and a lot of the songs in there are like pop songs. So they're not like a lot of songs with guitar in it or drums and shit like that. So it's like it's weird. And you're like like if you want to play vocals, it's like you're not actually singing. You're just using a controller. Um, I haven't dabbled in like the Lego stuff is not for me. I want to check out the racing thing. I heard it's actually really really good. But I've jumped back into the actual like battle royale part of it. I'm just trying to get to level 70 as we have to get Peter Griffin, and then get all of like his like side stuff, and then Solid Snake is supposed to be there, I believe, at the end of January. I don't know what you have to do to get him, but basically just trying to grind to get to him. I'm at level 14. I haven't won a game yet. Like I've won previous times I've gone back and played it. I usually jump back in for like really hard for like a season every year or so, and I haven't won a game, but I am pretty regularly getting into like the top 10, top 20, and stuff like that. So I'm doing pretty good there. But yeah, I've yet to win a game, but I'm just it's kind of like my thing I've been doing. Like I might play a game or two at night to try to get the dailies and do like the weekly stuff and just try to get my level up there. But the other two things I'm playing,
Yeah.
I did buy the Final Fantasy 16. I talked about it a little bit last week. I played the first hour of it. I
Yeah.
did buy the Final Fantasy 16 DLC, Echoes of the Fallen. You can buy it. It's $10 for this, but the second DLC is 20. Will be 20 when it comes out in the spring. Or you can just buy the whole thing, like the season, like this, I don't know, season pass, whatever you want to call it, the pack, for 25, save $5. So I did that. Play this. It's awesome. I really really love it. Like I love Final Fantasy 16 is one of my favorite games of the year. We'll get to that in a couple weeks when we do Game of the Year. Spoiler: it will be in my top 10 list. But yeah, like I, it's just it's it's like a really so it takes place during the game. Like it's a late game content thing. But what's cool is like, um, so you like I was kind of hoping that the DLC would be like post game, but it's whatever. But anyways, um, it's like it's like a really well done like side quest. Where like some of my biggest complaints with the games at the time was like some of the side quests in that and I did all the side quests. I did every single one of them.
Yes.
I beat the game. I did every single side quest you can do. But like some of my complaints was like that like some of the side quests you did were just awful. Like and they're like pointless and it was like some of like the worst side content out there. And like as far as like what you're doing, it's like there's like the joke of like Witcher 3 where it's like you have to go get the guy's pan, or he lost his, or like it's like some of it's like it takes you longer to like because you gotta go physically go talk to these people, so it would take you longer to like go fast travel to the spot, go walk to this person, talk to this person, than to actually go do the side quest you need to do, and then go back and talk to the person. Um, but then some side quests were like this huge giant 2 hour plus thing, and it was like on the scale of almost on the scale of like the main missions, and it was like holy shit. But you never
Hmm.
knew what it was gonna be. You never like everything was like, like I always have like I love for like Horizon Zero Dawn and stuff like where they have like there's the side quests and like they have the side quests that are like usually they're not on the scale of the main game, but like they're actually pretty meaty and like some of them can have big changes, big effects on the main story. But then they always had the other one that was I can't remember what it was like it was called Errands, and that was like the low tier like bullshit side quest that like they're easy, like they're fast, and it's just small stuff. But like, hey, like if you just want to grind levels or like get some stuff, get gear, whatever. Hey, there's a here for you, and like so. But you at least knew what you're getting into. But anyways, back to the actual Echoes of the Fallen here. It is like on the par of like actual it is basically like an extension of like the main storyline. So like kind of like minor spoilers. I'm not gonna spoil the whole game, but minor spoilers for like the game itself. So like the idea of the game is like Clive, Jill, and other characters in your party. I'm not gonna spoil everything else, but they are like trying to destroy all the mother crystals in the game. Like, and this is like, every there's like I think 7 different kingdoms, and every kingdom actually has a king and a queen, all that shit. But like they're every one has an icon, and the icon like you turn into like one of the icons of Final Fantasy. You have like Leviathan and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, and but it passes through the bloodline, and usually they're royalty, like so that kind of passes through them, and in this case, there's like throughout the main game, they talk about in side quests and in the main game, like you see all like everybody knows all of who the icons are. You see all the icons in the main game, but there's the lost icon, Leviathan, and they kind of mentioned a couple times, and like I think pretty much everybody knew or felt confident there's gonna be DLC and that this would be the case, and this is what it leads to. So every like so there's like each kingdom has a mother crystal, and that's where like you get the magic powers from, stuff like that, and then there's just this the Leviathan one's just missing. So this one you find the mother crystal, and like but man like it's actually like a whole like 2.5 3 hour long like on par with like budget and everything, like big huge like has actual orchestra music. I can't say the word. Thank
Orchestral.
you. I can't say that word. That kind of music, and it like they have like big huge boss fights. Like this shit is like on level with the main game. It is awesome. I loved it. Like I haven't seen Leviathan yet. That's obviously gonna be the second one. I'm assuming you're gonna fight him at the end of the second DLC. But I mean, like the boss fights in this thing were awesome. Like I really enjoyed some of the story content in this one as well. I really like the story. I really like the characters of the original game. But like it just is like, cause sometimes you buy some of these DLCs and it just feels like just shit they just took out of the main game, and like it's a side small thing they took out of the main game, and they just threw it on later and charged you for it. And this actually feels like a huge like whole chunk of like, but it feels like this was like actual real story content that they made into like a whole nother thing. And there's gonna be a bigger one that comes out later, and I can't wait. I can't wait to play it. It's fucking awesome. If you are a Final Fantasy 16 fan, highly recommend you check it out if you've already beat the game or you're looking at playing the game. And if like you have to get it pretty late into the game before you can actually unlock it. But yeah, I recommend highly go back and play that game. Play this DLC. The other DLC I played, this is a little nice one here. This was announced last week at the Game Awards, or was it 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. We have God of War Ragnarok of Valhalla. This is that roguelike
Yep.
mode that came out, and like I talked about last week when we were talking about the Game Awards and stuff. That like I was like, oh, I got really excited when they showed Kratos, obviously, and then I'm like, oh fuck, it's roguelike, because I'm not a huge roguelike person at all. Like, it just don't vibe with me. I hate like repeating content and stuff like that and everything. And come find out, Gables, like everybody this came out and it was just like, no, there's actually like a whole like story to this, and like it's post game content, and like there's like
Hmm.
real shit that happens in this. And I'm like, well, fuck, I gotta check this out. So I ended up playing this and I beat it. I beat it, Gables, and I am blown away. But I couldn't stop playing it. I started playing it this morning, and I was just like, I played it for like 4 hours straight.
You finished it this
No, I
morning?
started it this morning. I beat it tonight. But it's like
Oh,
5 6 hours of content. But I played it throughout the day. But like the
wow.
first, I played most of it in like a 4 hour chunk. Like I started playing it this morning, and like next thing I know, it was fucking like almost 1 o'clock. I'm like, holy shit. But like it just I couldn't like it's fucking like I mean obviously I think the gameplay of God of War is awesome. It took a little bit part of it too was like because I obviously haven't played the game since I beat it last over a year ago. So it took like the first few runs was like getting back to like how the buttons worked, and it took like an hour to like kind of get back into like it came natural to me to play. But like man, there's like there I don't want to spoil I'm not gonna spoil the story for people out there, but uh, It takes place after the game. You can play without beating it, but they recommend it. You play the game before before you actually play this. But yeah, blown away. But like the just like I mean like I was talking about with Echoes Fallen. This feels like I can't believe Gables is free. Like they charge $25
Wow.
for that deal for that Final Fantasy 16 DLC. I would have paid $25 for this.
Wow,
This
dude.
was fucking free and like
Free fucking
it,
DLC for God of War
yeah,
Ragnarok. And it's a 6 hour
and
chunk of a damn epic.
yeah, and like
Wow.
so there is like difficulty levels. I played it on there's 5 difficulty levels in God of War. I played on the middle one.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
the higher difficulty level you play it on, you get like better rewards. So like it's like every
Yes.
roguelike. So like you have like there's different like types of like currency basically, like for lack of a better term, where like there's ones that like once like you end a run, it's only works in that run. Then you have currency you can use to like upgrade your like your strength, your health, your luck, um, vitality, stuff like that. And then like there's a different currency you can use that like you can increase like I can't remember what it's called, like the currency that's only in the run. I think
Hmm.
they're called echoes or something like that. You can increase it like so you go in with like 200 already, and then you can use that to like you can upgrade abilities throughout that run, or you can
Hmm.
buy other like you can buy health like you can only buy health or like you can increase your rage bar once during a run, stuff like that.
Right.
So like obviously every time you're going through, you're always like at least progressing when you if you don't actually win or you finish it. But man, it is like on the par. Like everybody's saying it's like Hades, and it definitely yeah no I get it. It's like Hades is like the one roguelike I've actually got into really. There's the other roguelikes I got into, but like I changed it so Sifu I basically just turned off the roguelike mode and just played. Actually, like, that game was awesome, but I didn't want to do a roguelike. And I just beat it in one run, and it was awesome like that for me. But I didn't want to spend 20 hours on that one. But yeah. So, anyways, like Hades is like the one real roguelike I actually got into as a roguelike. But and this one like is like that. And like, but man, I am blown away by production levels. The fucking but like also on top of that, like you're not just like doing like every room is the same. Like every like you go in like the first few times you go into it, yeah, it's the same. But then they change it every time. It's completely random what you're doing, and then obviously you have like the chest you find, and you get different special abilities, or you can add different like glyphs to like you get like sometimes you get like if you defeating an enemy with rage with like when you're in rage mode, you get health back, or or if you defeat them with like this ability, it increases your luck, and like increasing your luck can like put you into you go like you open the door, you're going through doors basically, go to the next room, and then like you go into a special room where it has an extra chest in there, and you get more abilities and stuff like that. And then obviously you can as you progress, it changes. There's like you have to go through it multiple times because like you'll get to a level, and something happens, takes you back to the beginning. You go back and like you're slowly progressing through it. Like you can make this run multiple times, but I blew it away. Like I lost several runs, but like yeah, I could not stop playing it. Like, not only is obviously the combat of God of War being fantastic helps, but I could not believe how fucking cool this whole thing was. Like the fact, like I said, I would have paid
Excellent.
$25 for this. I would have been more than happy with what I got here. And the fact this was free, was fucking awesome. And like I loved where the story went with this. Man, like like once again, if you love God of War Ragnarok, even if actually you just really like roguelocks and you don't give roguelikes and you don't give a shit about God of War, you can find God of War for 20 30 bucks, pick it up, just play this roguelike mode, and you'll have a fucking blast. It's worth it. It's fucking awesome.
Hmm.
That's what I'm playing. Gables,
Nice.
can I just have God of War Ragnarok as my game of the year 2 years in a row? That might do it. It might happen.
All right. So going to my neck of the woods, I did something that I said I was going to do because it was getting closer to the release of it. So I purchased the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and
Hmm,
Violet, the Teal Mask, and also the Indigo Disk.
okay.
Before the launch of Indigo Disk, I played through the complete thing of the Teal Mask. It wasn't too long. I wanted to say it was like about, I want to say 4 or 5 hours it took me to
Ain't
go
bad.
through it because I wanted to not so much of the catch so much of the Pokemon, but I just wanted to go forth and get the good initial feel of the Teal Mask and stuff of what it had to provide itself. Honestly, going into it, I kind of felt that the Teal Mask and stuff was going to be that thing that's going to be sort of like an introductory thing, like a prelude to what was going to be in the Indigo Disc. And yeah, my confirmations were correct because going through the all that other rigmarole stuff, the story stuff for the teal mask, it did feel like that type of DLC to where, yeah, there was plenty of story elements to it. They led up to the whole like basic like the legendary Pokemon that you face towards the end of that whole expansion stuff. But there were some interesting parts of it. I kind of felt like that the quality of the DLC itself as a whole isn't as strong as say with good comparison I would think would be with the last Pokemon game with that last DLC that did have like say the Crown
Hmm.
Tundra. I feel like that this game was kind of like that initial expansion, the TL Mass is a little bit under that in terms of the whole thing that it would provide you and stuff like that and stuff. But it was still fine, right? What I did like about like the teal mask is that the last few battles, the last couple of different types of battles and stuff, because it definitely increased a bit of the difficulty and the whole like story twist and stuff. Like the story itself in general, I should say, is kind of like to the book, kind of playing a little bit safe and stuff. You are introduced to these two characters called Chiron and Carmine, a brother and sister tandem, right? This overbearing sister and stuff that's kind of honestly, it's kind of a little bit too mean. It's like really kind of like a bitch or something
Wow.
like that to her little brother. I mean, I did not like her initially when I was first introduced to her because she seemed like the type of like angry manipulative woman or something like that that would like really kind of like undermine and like kind of just harass like the younger sibling or something like that because she just wants to be
Hmm.
spiteful. But it kind of caught me
It's
by
kind of like when you call
surprise a
me,
little
you
bit.
make fun of me and say I'm in my mid 30s.
Okay, when I do that as a playful rib, what she goes through and like undermines like her brother and stuff like that, it's still like a blow below the belt.
I would argue
But
that was also below the belt for me.
but yet these two are like kind of like different things to each other. Is like the beginning of the story and stuff. It's like you have the sister that's fairly mean, and you have the little brother that's kind of lacking of self confidence and stuff like that. Is really obsessed like with the TL Mask and stuff, and the story of Ogre Pawn and stuff like that, and all the other legendaries and stuff like Okidogi, Monkey Dory, and Vezidipity and stuff. That whole story surrounding all that stuff, then yeah, I'm gonna go into spoiler stuff for the story and stuff because it really is kind of to the number. If you actually watched a lot of the trailers, you could see like the kind of twist coming from a mile
Mm.
away. So I'm gonna count to five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, quintessentially, it's like the reverse to where the three legendary Pokemon where you thought were going to be like the good like the good like a Pokemon or something that's like defending against the Ogerpon. It's the complete reverse because the whole initial story for Ogerpon is a long time ago. It lived with a trainer, right? It lived with like somebody and stuff, and the guy like used to go to like the different villages and stuff, with Ogerpon and stuff, and like just basically like couldn't really fit in with a lot of the residents and stuff. They're kind of fearful for him, like fearful of him because of his tall stature and stuff, and they were vastly different than what the regulars and stuff were akin to seeing in terms of like a person or something. But he did befriend a mask maker, and this mask maker created these different masks and stuff, not just for him but also for his Pokemon, Ogerpon. Years later and stuff, I mean, like one day you have the three Pokemon, the other three, like the loyal three and stuff, go and initially attack this dude, right? I mean, he's nowhere to be found and stuff, but they also go through and like attack Ogerpon. They steal like three of the initial masks and stuff. So the whole duration of this DLC is for you to fetch back the masks that were stolen after the legendary, like the loyal three, are reawakened years later through like a trial and error thing after you beat Chiron and stuff in terms of one of the Pokemon battles you have against him. And quintessentially, it's like you having to defend Ogerpon or something like that and try to get his masks back and stuff to, kind of like kind of like getting back the things that were rightfully his to begin with, because it was part of the person that he was with and stuff that received these masks. But what I will say is this DLC also has like kind of like the one of the few times I kind of felt somewhat guilty of beating like like a rival in terms of this expansion, because Kyron, you face off multiple different times. He has like a lot of like self-confidence issues and stuff. He gets undermined by his sister and
I know the
stuff.
feeling.
So he's the thing where his teams aren't bad and stuff, but because I've been using my party of Pokemon up until that point, from even the main game onwards to this expansion, of course I'm gonna go forth and wipe the floor with him a couple dozen times, because that's just kind of like how it is and stuff. But progressively keeps getting like more and more sort of paranoid and stuff, and especially with like certain like story twists happen later to where he's like angry with like say you and also with his sister and stuff, because he wants to capture Ogerpon, he wants to see that and stuff. But the final battle with Kyron and stuff, as well as the final battle eventually against like Ogerpon and stuff, best parts of the DLC. With Kyron, he had a tough enough team to where I had to initially go and actually change in different Pokemon, because he was able to knock out a couple of different Pokemon on my team. For Ogerpon, it was an interesting gimmick. You don't fight him and feint him like one time. No, because he terastallizes and stuff, he uses not one, but four different masks while he's terastallizing. So, for example, he starts off with, like, say, a mask that's more reminiscent of like a fire element, right? So he'll terastallize. You have to whittle down his HP completely to zero, and then it'll go to another little blurb or some. Oh, he remembers like the dude that he was with long ago. When he puts on another mask and terastallizes and recovers full things. So four separate times, and I have to adjust on the fly, because each time he does that, it's a different element. So let's say you're faced off against a fire element or water or rock. The last one's grass. But those masks have him take on the initial like element type. And so having to adjust it with that on the fly, and then having that presented, and then finally eventually capturing Ogerpon and all getting all these other different masks and stuff from catching him, that was fantastic. I felt that final couple of battles was fantastic to otherwise like lukewarm expansion. All in all, I would have gave that like a 6 out of 10, really, because it was okay, but there were definitely some things that made up for the lack of like story stuff, because I didn't really like Kyron or like Carmine in terms of that stuff. And even when it got towards the end and stuff, I was like, okay, I'm kind of tired of seeing you guys and stuff. I mean, I don't care if we're gonna meet again or this that. But after finishing that, it only was like a couple days before the Indigo Disc dropped. It dropped like around 6 o'clock my time on Wednesday, because it released simultaneously throughout Japan and everywhere else around the world at the same
Hmm.
time. So I got a chance to play like around 6 o'clock in the evening. So this expansion is vastly different. It feels a lot more correlated, like a lot more a lot more coordination went into effect. The whole terrarium aspect of it, where it's literally sectioned off to four different like sectors based upon what type of elements or what type of natural sort of four seasons like kind of structure, is really cool. In terms of like the variety of Pokemon, fantastic. I mean, you're getting all the different types of Pokemon that weren't present inside of the main portion of the game, as well as maybe some like twists and some like variations of Pokemon that were inside the main game. Or you're seeing their Alolan versions or their Galarian versions or like the Cantonian versions of that. But there are a couple interesting gimmicks that are introduced to it. You'll have something that's called like a blueberry sort of like quest, which they cheekingly like nicknamed it the BBQ quests. You complete these, right? It just does like a lot of minimal tasks and stuff to acquire like blueberry points. Those type of BP type of stuff, to where if you collect enough of them, you can unlock certain like privileges, right? So, for example, if you go onto the school computer and stuff, and like you can get like a whole bunch of different kind of things, it can expand certain like areas of the region to allow you to capture, say, specific types of Pokemon, like say like Charmander or Squirtle or like the starters, in general, like the Gen 1 through 8 starters. That's how you can acquire them through the game by doing that type of stuff. So, on top of that, you have the story to where you are trying to beat the Elite Four of the Blueberry League as well as the champion. You find out soon after, like, everything's all introduced and everything started, that Kyron has thrown a complete 180 because at the end of the Teal Mask DLC, he there's a cutscene to where he is literally obsessing upon getting stronger because of his lack of confidence and this and that and stuff, and him constantly losing to me when I beat him so badly inside of this Teal Mask. He's now thrown a complete opposite to where he's just a thriving jerk. He's mean to his sister, obviously, like scares his sister, is a total dick to everyone else around him inside the Blueberry Academy stuff, and he's obsessed upon battling people who are stronger. So his personality does the complete 180. So the entirety of this is you can go through and beat the Elite Four in terms of the Blueberry stuff, which I've beaten like 3 out of the 4. The reason why I've beaten 3 out of the 4 is because the last one, and this is something that I think this is incredibly crazy and also incredibly genius upon Pokemon's part, they force you to re-establish a new team by using only the Pokemon you capture within that terrarium in that expansion. So when it comes to it, it definitely is going to be increasing the amount of time you're going to spend on it, but you have so many good Pokemon that's available to you, and they're not like, say, you have to raise them from level 1 either. The lowest is like maybe level 50. The highest I've seen is like in the 70s, the mid 70s. So it's within the same levels as what you're competing against the Elite Four members, right? It's not going to be that difficult to reestablish a new team if you have to go and capture these new type of Pokemon to use. On top of that, there's another new gimmick that's introduced inside here that wasn't really prevalent inside the main game, and that's double battling. In the main game, you're doing like single battles, and there's like maybe 1 or 2 instances where you actually had 2 double battles that entire game. In this expansion, it's more akin to how, say, competitive like the video game stuff goes for like their tournament stuff, to where you are doing 2-on-2 battles, meaning the strategies and everything else gets a lot more complex because you have to try to work in, like, say, done like team moves. You have to go forth and put more planning into things. And I've actually had a lot of fun going and reconstructing a team from scratch. Like I have a set of 6 right now that I'm still experimenting with. I have half of my team is consistent of Pokemon from Generation 5, like Black and White, because honestly, there's a lot of Pokemon that are from that generation that are inside this expansion, which kind of leads me to believe further down the line there is going to be something in terms of like Pokemon Black and White, some form of a game down the line. That's kind of like what's been rumored. But I've constructed a team. I'm still doing a little bit of like testing here and there. But my initial plan with this expansion now is to beat the Elite Four, try to see if I can wrap up the DLC within the next week, because I still haven't gotten to the whole like the mysteries of the Area Zero,
Hmm.
the whole touting things of the crater and stuff, because that's the last thing that I wanted to try to get into after I finished the expansions. So I did that, but I also played the Tekken 8 demo. I did play the Tekken 8 demo. I used every single character that was available to it. And what's kind of curious about it, after you've completed like 3 matches like in a row against your opponent, because they consist of like a match consists of the best of 3, quintessentially. So you have to win 3 matches in a row. You have to win like no 3 rounds in a row in order to get a match win. So what ends up becoming funny is after you've like done like the third match, it'll say, "Oh, you want to purchase this? You want to go through that?" And I'm just gonna just click that off and stuff because I wanted to try to see what else I can go forth and play with this. But there's four characters that are presentable that are presented in this. You have Paul, you have Jin Kazama, you have Kazuya, and then you have Nina. These four characters are one of like they're four of like characters that have been around for a long time in the Tekken series. All of them feel different. All of them feel different. It took me a bit of time to adjust to the control style of this one as compared to Tekken 7 because there are aspects to where it just feels incredibly more fluid, a lot more aggressive, and a lot less like sort of like a methodical sort of pace like you would in past Tekken games. Like say in Tekken 7, there are specific combos you can go forth and play in certain combinations because there's all these different aspects, all these different types of combos you can go and like experiment with, like say in the practice modes or this or that. But because I'm playing these four characters from scratch and stuff, the move lists for these characters are available, but they're not really as in depth because they don't give you too much of what these characters can completely do. But I gotta say, man, after playing after playing all four characters, I freaking really wanted to go forth and play more. The heat, the heat element inside this, the whole heat mode and stuff, to where once you go and like you press the X button or the R1 button and stuff, and you go into like the heat mode and stuff, and then just do a couple different combos and just do like a final sort of like finisher and stuff. It feels great. It feels awesome. It feels like you are barely even spending any time contemplating like what you're going to do in the match. Because the style is more focused towards aggressive play styling, I feel like I'm actually getting a leg up upon the AI or I'm getting a leg up upon my opponent because I'll do the occasional combo and stuff, but then I'll try to side sweep them or something, or try to juggle them in the air and stuff. I've tried doing various stuff that I have before in past Tekken games, like say try to do a good juggle and stuff while implementing some of the new gimmicks. I've done maybe a couple, say with like maybe Paul, and I think a couple with Nina and stuff. But out of the characters I did initially play, I really felt like I loved playing as Jin the most because he's definitely easy to kind of pick up and sort of that aspect. And plus, from the past story trailer, I think he's going to be like the central point of the whole Tekken 8. So, of course, him playing as like new player friendly as possible definitely is a positive for new players coming in and stuff. But I got to admit, they got a good base. They got a good base foundation upon what this fighting game could be, and I feel like this is going to be a freaking good game when it does come out late January. So we got like less than we pretty much got like over a month
Yeah.
now, and we got all these different trailers, and we haven't even seen what is going to be coming out in terms of like say future DLC, because it could be even crazier than that in terms of their list. But other than the Pokemon stuff, other than the Tekken 8 stuff, I mean, it's just the usual stuff for me. I mean, in between like work days and stuff, if I hadn't felt like I wanted to play something deep, I just pop on some Vampire Survivors. I played through the DLC of that. The DLC of that's pretty damn good. I will say that. Loved playing the new characters. But other than that, yeah, that's my gaming
All
stuff.
right. Well, very cool. Well, I think it's gonna wrap it up for us this week. This is our last like normal show of the week. Gables and I will be doing a second show right after this, but
Yep.
that will be coming out a week from now. Gables and I are we're gonna do a fun little year in review. We're gonna go through our Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation year in wrap ups and go through and just like we're gonna go back and look at the release calendar for this year in video games. Let's kind of do a little year in review for gaming. Something we started doing last year. It works out too, so that way Gables and I can have a nice. That way we can have next weekend off for the holidays, and then we'll be back in 2 weeks. So you have an episode. We have this episode this week. We'll have the year review next week, and then 2 weeks from now, Gables and I will start our Game of the Year podcast for 2023, ranking our top 10 games for games that came out in the year 2023. That'll be two parts. We'll record those both on the same night again, and then that one will come out 1 week. The other one will come out that next week. So this is our last like normal show for about a month. So
Yeah.
pretty crazy. So if something big happens or whatever, we'll come back and we'll like if there's like a Nintendo Direct drops or Xbox is a big thing or PlayStation or whoever, something major happens, we'll come back for it. But otherwise, typically, everybody in the video game world is kind of off the next few weeks, so we're gonna try to take a couple. This is the only 2 weeks of the year that Gables and I actually take off recording. So yeah, we're very much looking forward to it. We'll be able to enjoy the holidays with the family, not to worry about doing this podcast. So if you guys been listening to us, this is our last recording session of the year for us. But if you guys will listen to us all year or whatever, if you joined us this year, have been listening to us since 2013, we appreciate it. Thank you guys. Please, there's links down below to all of our social feeds, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, if you're on whatever podcast service you're on, please look for us, Drunk Nerds Podcast. You'll find us on there. Like, follow, subscribe, 5-star reviews. If you're check us out on YouTube, please. We're really pushing the YouTube channel. We're getting up in reviewers. We're getting really close where we can actually start making some ad revenue on this podcast. So that'd be really great. We're two guys that just do this for fun. We have full-time jobs, and we do this because we love video games. It'd be nice if we made a little bit of money on this. So you guys help us kind of boost those numbers up. We really appreciate it. Like, following, subscribe, leaving comments, sharing with your friends, all that stuff. Really would appreciate if you do that for us. But yeah, I was your host. I was Tyler.
And I've been Colonel Gables. So until next time, everyone, enjoy your holidays, enjoy your new year. But most importantly of all, thank you for listening to another fun filled episode of the Drunk Nerds
Thank you, Gabe.
podcast.
Too
Yeah.
sweet.
Too sweet, man.
Bye, guys.
See ya.